Welcome to the Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night. This is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania. Amateur radio is a worldwide hobby that has many different aspects. Digital television is just one of the many modes and areas that are covered. Maybe you're interested in becoming involved in the DATV Experimenters Nights. You realise that you do not have to be a radio amateur or need any ATV equipment to participate anywhere in the world. Also participate in the night by coming up to the Queen's Domain clubrooms. Yes, right on top of the Queen's Domain in the heritage-listed Coast Wireless Station. You never know, we might get you in front of the camera or behind doing one of the many roles during the night. We get underway with our program on a Wednesday night from 7:30pm local time. We'll see you soon. This is VK7 OTC.
Okay, this is VK7OTC, the club station of the Radio and Electronics Association of Southern Tasmania, with our Digital Amateur Television Experimenters Night, and this is the Working from the Shack edition number 3, and we've got a little bit of a special treat for you tonight that we're trying out. Given the social distancing with COVID-19 and a few other things, we've employed the marvellous technology of Zoom to over the next few weeks talk to a few of our amateurs, local amateurs, and get them to give us a bit of a shack tour and a bit of a projects tour as well, and a bit of background on themselves. So just before I get mainly underway, just remind people they can call in on repeater 2 146 700, and they can also talk to us via the chat channel on the YouTube stream. Now, we were going to have DMR 38 Talk Group 3807 tonight, but we've got a little bit of a problem with getting 3807 here in the studio. You would think that repeater 2 RAD, which is right next to us, would be not an issue, but it is a little bit of an issue. We can hear it, but we can't actually talk to it. So I have a feeling the code plug needs updating. So we'll have that in place for our next one. But you do have R2 and the YouTube chat channel. So, and a huge thank you to people who have put some suggestions into various channels, the chat channel, and also via email and a few other things. So, which is how we came up with the Working from the Shack tour idea. So, what I will do through the marvels of modern science, I will just go to, and if we head to. We'll head to here, and we welcome Richard VK7ZBX, who is sitting there in his salubrious shack. Evening, Richard.
Good day, Justin.
How you doing?
Good. We got there in the end.
We did.
Hiccups, but it's all good.
We had a few hiccups there on the way through, but we did get there in the end. And I apologise to our people who are watching through the stream and RF, and also on Ham Radio DX through Hayden's channel, because We did get underway a little bit late. We had a last minute technical hitch.
Technical hitch, yeah.
Technical hitch, but we're underway. So, welcome, Richard. And this is Richard Howlett, VK7ZBX, to the DATV Working from the Shack edition. And Richard is truly working from the shack. So.
Yeah. And thanks for the invite. It's sort of a good opportunity, I think. We'll talk about it at the end.
Well and truly.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So, Richard, without further ado, we might get underway with a few questions. And probably a little bit about yourself and your sort of background and history. Give us a little bit of context.
Yeah, look, okay. I'm sort of a fabricator welder by trade, which I did that many years ago. Look, I started an apprenticeship at the Zinc Works in 1979, which is, wow, that seems like a long time ago. Anyway. Interesting place, the Zinc Works then. There was like 3,000 people there. It was pretty awesome.
Wow.
I met a guy, met many people, but one of them was Les Cooper, who then turned out to be VK7LS,
yep.
Who made it sort of pretty plain after a few discussions that I should be getting an amateur ticket and playing radios and not playing CBs, because he goes, you should be doing this cool stuff. So a couple of visits to his place and looking at some HF and stuff. There was lots of study material plonked on my bench. Read this. So,
oh, very good.
So lo and behold, in 1986, I became VK7ZBX. He wanted me to learn Morse code, but I was really quite against that. Because I just found it too hard. I did try.
Yeah, don't worry, Richard. I started off as a Z call as well.
Oh, goodness. But look, it was good. Bought myself an ST290R, which was pretty flash at that point.
Yep.
And sort of did the usual thing of sort of listening to repeaters and sort of all that sort of stuff. Didn't get into any of the sort of stuff I'm into now, like contesting and stuff, but it was pretty interesting, just listening, lots of listening to. There used to be a group that used to chat in the morning going to work.
Okay.
Which was pretty interesting. I used to ride a motorbike back in those days, so having the mobile rig was not really an option. But there was a guy that worked at the Zinc Works who I think was a ham that had an ex-police bike. I'm sure he used to have a 2-metre radio in it.
Okay.
Ian Hill, was that it? Anyway, I digress. I think because you'd go past and you'd hear the 2-metre repeater blurting out at high volume.
I love it.
So then got involved with 250 bits and pieces. Met a couple of fairly interesting fellows who are both now sadly are silent keys. Ian Philby, VK7ZIF, and Doug Parrish, VK7AZ, who pretty well experienced, sort of die-hard hams of the highest order.
Oh yes.
Yeah, definitely. Ended up spending a fair bit of time with Doug, sort of being a pair of hands at the end of his pointy finger, like, because he was a white stick operator.
Yep. Do that.
Not convinced on a few occasions, because he used to point and say things that you'd look and you'd go, how do you know that? But so I spent a bit of time with him and with Ian, and they were both avid satellite guys. So I sort of thought, wow, this stuff's pretty cool. So with their help, sort of built some antennas, and because I had a 290R, I was able to listen to, as it was then, Oscar 10.
Right.
Which was pretty cool, but then I very quickly decided that the 290R was a bit deaf, so off to probably the precursor to mini kits, the Adelaide VHF group that made a preamp, Mustard preamp kit using a BF981.
Yep.
So I built one of those and was startled at how much of a difference it made. Was able to listen to people talking on the satellite, which was great.
In fact, the 1296 power meter, Richard, is from the same group. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's probably the precursor to Mark with mini kits.
Yeah, well and truly.
Yeah.
Well and truly.
So that was sort of pretty good fun. Then obviously Oscar 10. Oscar 10 was really good. That was my sort of very early entry into it. Oscar 10, as you probably were aware, was designed to be at a 57-degree inclination. But it tripped and fell on the way out of the launch vehicle and didn't end up at that inclination. It ended up at 26 degrees, which was made it much more favourable for us. So we got some really, really good windows into Europe and into the UK, which was, still can't believe you could work into that thing with 10 watts. 10 watts out of a UHF radio, which I was, again, Doug and Ian were guys that used to have the latest toys. It was really quite cool. And it was really good because I got the opportunity to buy, as it was then, a pretty flash Icon 490A all mode. Had 4 memories. 4 whole memories. And it didn't, unfortunately, it had been a victim of a Doug oops, and it didn't have any memory, so every time you turn it on, it defaulted to 430 megahertz. But look, it was an all mode radio. It was great. Yeah. So I was able to work some stuff on Oscar 10, which was just fantastic.
Fantastic. And that's a good segue. You got quite involved with the satellites and even controlling some of the satellites. So
I got involved with the guy that used to be the AMSAT Australia coordinator, Graham Radcliffe, VK7ZBX, who I'm not sure, I haven't heard from him or his whereabouts. Really incredibly clever fellow, and just used to have a huge following in AMSAT Australia. Yep. He was actually a command station and involved with Oscar 13. He was part of the design team. Like, pretty clever guy. Look, he sort of started to import some things made by another very famous amateur, James Miller, G3RUH, who designed a lot of bits and pieces. In fact, I still think you can buy his GPS DO bits and pieces, but we bought some cool stuff like 9600 baud modems because he designed them and whatever. And for Oscar 13, it used to send telemetry at 400 baud, a PSK, which was a really error resilient modulation technique. Pretty slow, 400 baud. So he designed a demodulator for that, which was something that I got and started listening, sort of looking at telemetry, and I then got involved with the North American guys who wanted to have a few other stations around the world, because when they wanted to load this software onto these spacecraft, they needed sort of geographically diverse stations, because they were low Earth orbiters. You only had like 7 or 8 minutes of access time, and to load the spacecraft software took probably 4 or 5 orbits, so they wanted to be able to coordinate it. And, nothing as flash as, having the software that would automatically work out where you got to. No, you'd basically software that was handwritten by some guys in the States that built the spacecraft, and send it to you with virtually no documentation, and you would have the IHU operating binary file that you would start to upload, and you would get acknowledgements, and it would show you the address that it got to in the file. So then when you didn't get the acknowledgement back, you had to trim those bytes off the front of the file and then send it on to the next guy.
The next person.
So it was good to be involved. Only once did I actually get to hit the go button. It's like they'd spent 4 or 5 orbits uploading code, and then they go, okay, you just hit the X to execute the code. And
everyone.
What happens is the beacon goes off for about 10 seconds while it executes and does all its stuff. And if it's good, the beacon used to come back on. But if it was bad, the beacon didn't. And then you had to send the fire code reset and start all over again.
And everyone holds their breath while it's restarting.
Yeah. But I only did it once, and it was good, so I was like very happy with it.
Excellent. Okay.
So that was pretty cool.
Now you showed me a certificate last night that a very nice certificate that you you probably put it away in a safe place, but anyway.
Where did I put it? 1 second.
Yep. We'll just let Richard find. There we go. Here he comes. This was very impressive.
Well, it was one of those things that they used to have lots of the symposiums for various things, and unbeknownst to me, I picked up this little. Oh, hang on, something like that might be better. Basically, when I joined a little group with AMSAT North America that was headed by a couple of guys. In fact, one of them is Courtney Duncan, N5BF, He's actually a 1296 moon bounce guy.
Okay.
They had like a little training group because they only had sort of command stations in pretty much the US, and there was Graham in Australia, but they sort of didn't have anyone else, and they needed some people to sort of like learn the basics and be able to do some menial tasks, which was still pretty cool.
Yep.
Like do spin studies and find out how the thing was tumbling and all sorts of stuff, which was at times pretty complex and way above my knowledge level, but still there were some pretty cool guys that sort of helped along the way.
That's pretty revolutionary stuff, you know. It was...
Yeah, look, it was pretty nice to be involved. You talk to some guys, and one guy I met in particular, who was an airline pilot, and of course you do the big, look, you know, if you're ever in Hobart, sort of swing by and look me up. So sort of 11 o'clock one night, there's a bang on the door, and there's a 6'2" guy like, oh, well, you said drop in.
Just happened to be flying through.
Yeah. But look, really good bunch of guys. Unfortunately, the mission that I partly helped with, Dove, just basically died. They somehow had an oops, and the command receiver was on 2 meters, and they somehow locked the 2 meter transmitter on.
Oh, yes, okay. There goes the
apparently
battery.
There was a command receiver on 2.4 gigs, but apparently it didn't work very well.
Okay.
And they had lots of like EME guys with lots of the IRP trying to send fire code resets, but
yeah,
unfortunately it so it worked for a little while, but it never ever did what it was supposed to do. But
yep. And
it was pretty cool.
The thing about that is you just can't whiz up and pull it into the spacecraft and do some maintenance and then push it back out again.
No, not at all. And like the guys that their job is to write the fire code. That basically is the bit that when it all breaks, this is the few bytes of code that runs, and you know, make sure the batteries don't boil away.
Yep. The last ditch.
Sort of stuff, make sure that, like, no pressure, but if you mess this up.
Correct.
Like, yeah.
Dear oh dear. Well, that
was pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
That's fantastic, Richard. That's really good, and that's you still do satellite work, don't you? You still.
Look, I've started to get back into it. If you can almost say the problem now is there's almost too many.
Correct.
Because there's like there's the XW A3. Excuse me, repeat it. There's like the 4 XW satellites, and then there's the AO91, AO92, and AO85, and a whole bunch of others, which is great. But it's just like you nearly need to set up a sked because you sort of get on there and call heaps of times, and there may not be anyone there because they're on the other satellite that just went over or something. But look, it's great fun. Part of the thing, obviously, when we started with our tracking project, the K3NG, that was the impetus to sort of get that going.
Well and truly.
So,
and the rest is history, really. That's
yes, compared to that, yeah.
Great little project that is. I mentioned last night that is still being added to with a whole lot of things. So sorry, I think there was somebody called in on the IRLP note. I just need to work out who it is. That keep talking. But probably my next question, Richard, is who are your inspirations? Your amateur radio inspirations, your Elmers, to use another word, or those people who have really sort of
probably in the early days. It was obviously sort of Les Cooper, who sort of was a pretty laid-back, casual sort of guy. Had the wickedest handshake in the world. I spent a fair bit of time, and look, he again never used to do any of the stuff that we do now, microwave, blah blah blah.
Yep.
But he was like an HF guy and a practical sort of RF guy.
Okay.
And it was pretty down to earth. Like he showed sort of like lots of enthusiasm what you can do, and obviously that sort of talking to lots of people all over the world and building stuff and whatever. So he was obviously the impetus to sort of get the ticket.
Yep.
But then having sort of joined a radio club and you sort of meet other people, probably Ian and Doug were pretty sort of guys that you sort of look and go, like for a start, wow, their shacks were awesome. They had like lots of toys and
I never saw Doug's, but I certainly saw Ian's quite a few times. So.
Oh, look, yeah. And it was good because they used to buy. They were fortunate enough to be able to buy the latest kit. In fact, I think it was a little bit of a competition between the two. And of course, Doug, being a white stick operator, would need someone to sort of give him a quick rundown on where the buttons were and how to drive it. So it was quick. I bought this new radio. I need you to take it home, and then drive it, and then come back and teach me.
Okay.
Well, of course, then he'd give you the ultimate test. You'd take the radio up there, and he'd be fine. He used to learn really quickly. Really, used to blow me out. But then he'd say, "How do I get into such and such mode? I've pressed this button." I'm like, "Oh, I haven't got the radio to look at." And he goes, "Well, I don't know what's written on it." He goes, "I know it's the third one along, second one up." Like, oh, really?
I love it.
But look, those guys had the ability to sort of show you what can be done.
Yep.
And sort of set you on a bit of a task and sort of often redirect you if you're headed down the wrong direction. And of course, that was quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then, of course, coming along to the club and sort of getting back into sort of meeting people and whatever, came across our friend Rex, VK7MO.
Powerhouse extraordinaire. Yes.
Yeah. And look, obviously, sort of people like yourself, and of course Murray, who I met in the course of guys that have got sort of expertise in sort of lots of areas, and but yeah, look, Rex probably sort of started a fire that you probably really never quite know how big it's going to go.
Correct.
Probably with a lot of us, if the truth be known.
Yeah. It's that little bit of inspiration that you never quite know where it's going to lead, but you know it's going to go somewhere.
Look, that's right. Look, I think there's lots of people. Again, those guys spring to mind, but there's also like Graham VK5AGR in the early days.
Yep.
Was one of those guys that you just think, wow, being in the group of people that design and build satellites.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
I know, well and truly.
So and he was very unassuming. It's like, oh, look, yeah, it's pretty straightforward, really.
Yep.
Really. But look, as you progress through the hobby, you meet lots of people that sort of impress you to sort of no end.
I know,
every other day,
Correct, and inspire, and that I mentioned earlier that whole thing of going to Gibbs Tech, and I think Rex has been to almost all of them, and I've certainly been to quite a number of them, and come back from those sort of gatherings inspired, because
fired up. Let's go. Let's build stuff.
These guys just show what can be done. And in a lot of cases how easy it is. I know when I originally started to look at sort of microwave bits and pieces, it was all a bit bewildering to me. It seemed more like plumbing than electrical. But it just seemed, the tolerances and all of that sort of stuff. It was
talking about thousandths of an inch,
correct,
and stuff, and hundredths of a millimetre. It's like, really?
But one of the things that Gibbs Tech kept doing for me was there was a wonderful guy, and this is one of my inspirations, is Neil Sanford, VK4. Oh, I've forgotten his call sign. But Neil Sanford was the microwave home brewer. Like, he would repurpose all of this different microwave gear, and you would go along and you didn't need to spend a lot of money. You were repurposing gear. It was very easy. It was, and it was all of this. And he's certainly one of my inspirations in the microwave space, because he just proved to me this is not as hard as it looks. This is actually not as hard as it looks. So, but dear Neil, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. It's like Les, he's unfortunately a silent key. So. Won't be seeing him at Gibbs Tech anymore. So, but anyway, that's.
I think it's one of those things. The more you learn about stuff, the more you realise you actually don't know anything. You sort of think, I got this covered, and then you learn a bit more, and you go, oh no, I don't.
That's spot on. The more you learn, the more you know that you know what you don't know.
Exactly right.
Well and truly. So, Richard, what I might get you to do is give us a bit of a tour of the shack. That was what this was. this night was focused on. So
I don't know how well this is going to work. Okay. So let's just get mobile with the camera. Now, I don't know whether everyone's taken the seasickness pills. I'll just do a little bit of a wow. So the shack. Look, I must admit, I'm really quite fortunate with the shack because it was built as a shack when I built the house. So
yep,
I'm really sort of pretty fortunate. So the cables come in through the hole in the floor there.
Yep.
Sort of go onto a bit of cable tray, which is actually hidden by a couple of new bits of rack.
Very
They all
impressive.
look pretty nice. Unfortunately, you can't see them. The cable tray goes along, and please pardon the technical term. There's a bit of a bunch of coconuts because that's work in progress. But underneath there is some network outlets and power boards. That sort of basically goes computer. That sort of goes all the way around, sort of underneath.
Very nice.
That's a bit dark, so over in there, that's the sort of the new rack. So the two bits over on the left, are two bits that I'm sure Justin's familiar with. That's the 2.4 gigahertz transverter on the top.
Yep.
With the sporting yellow front panel.
Very nice.
Everyone has black front panels. I think yellow's making a bit of a statement.
Well, at least you know it's
so
the 2.4. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably should have been red then, shouldn't it? But now it's 2.4 anyway. So that's got a an SG Labs transverter inside it, along with one of the Spectrian amplifier modules from Pyro Joe in the States.
Okay.
And that's actually, probably say from the top, that's actually built into a Philips 814 case.
Oh, okay.
Nice big chunky heatsink on the back.
No, it will.
Sorry, the lead won't reach anymore, so
That's
as
all right.
close as we're going to get. So that gives 50 watts out on 2.4 gigs.
Cool.
That works really quite nicely. Made quite a few contacts on that. Then below it is the 3.4 gig transverter.
Okay.
Which is one of the Geelong Amateur Radio Club panels.
Yep.
Put into a case with one of the amplifiers, the 30 watt amplifier modules, and a preamp and switching and whatever to sort of make it all nice, because I'm a bit of a neat sort of dude. But that works really well. That was really some great assistance from Hayden VK7ZBX, who expended an inordinate amount of energy with some of these 3.4 gig panels. Like Justin, you and I think the four of us converted them, and
Yep.
they gave us somewhat of a bit of grief. I think we all lost a bit of hair. Like we got there in the end.
Bit of a challenge. Yes.
Yeah, but jeepers. So look, it works pretty well. We've made quite a few good contacts, even especially from Hayden's place, which was definitely not line of sight, sort of over the top of Mount Wellington to my place in Two-Tree. So
Cool.
that worked sort of pretty well.
Very impressive.
Okay, so the next bit of kit is the new bit, which is the 23 centimetre amplifier, which we're not going to get a little bit closer.
Very
Let's
nice.
see the display. Does that display come up, Justin, or
No, it's a bit bright. That's all right.
Okay. Basically, again, this is an amplifier done by VHF Designs in Russia.
Yep.
And they just basically had a varying levels of kit that you could buy. This is the 300 watt version that comes with a heatsink, fan, and a controller. Now the controller is really cool because it does all the sequencing. So it'll automatically drop the power to the LNA, activate the LNA relay, activate the relay to put the PA in circuit, then it'll bias up the amplifier and sort of do it all nicely.
Very nice.
Which is really cool. The only downside of that, of course, is most radios that you interface them to, like such as a 9700 or 9100, obviously give you a push-to-talk signal out.
Yep.
that we normally use to key amplifiers, and it's quite fine. But of course, this time you're not just keying an amplifier; you're actually keying a sequence of events. So ended up doing a little bit of jiggery pokery by intercepting the mic lead and pulling push to talk off that and sending that off to the amplifier to begin the push to talk process, and then when it has its turn, basically the sequencer then runs back to via another cable to the radio to tell it to transmit.
Yep. Okay.
So then I had to do a little bit more jiggery pokery so that WSJTX could actually switch the thing into transmit by actually using old school serial port with a DTR line to drop it low.
Right.
To instigate transmit. So which took a bit of doing, but
very nice. And very nice orange panel there. Very nice.
Going for the
Yes.
People that know me know what sort of colour car I drive. Very similar, and also the company I work for.
Correct. Yes. The Tasmanette orange. Yes. And
so,
Richard, just before you go on, we've got Ham Radio DX. So Hayden's called in from Peter VK4EA and Kevin VK4UH.
G'day guys.
Said to me, you come away, if you come away from Gibbs Tech uninspired, you're not awake, which is perfectly true. That's spot on. And also from Peter, he blames Alan VK3XPD for his microwave addiction. So yes, Alan's a definite inspiration in the Gibbs Tech space. So yeah,
a lot of people have been inspired by those guys.
Oh yeah, yep. So good stuff.
Cool.
Good stuff.
All right, so whether you want to, I've got the lid loose, which is all projects sort of should be. I don't know whether you want to have a peek inside.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Now I'm a bit interested as to how you're going to do this, because you're juggling the notebook.
It's the webcam. So.
Okay. Oh well, very nice.
So I don't know how that looks, but basically, you see the module on the right hand side.
Yep.
28 volt, 40 amp power supply on the left.
Yep.
Relay in the middle. Now, when the guys sent the amp from Russia, the control and sequencer comes in its own little box.
Yep.
And I wanted to sort of have everything into one box, so I basically, rather than destroy or redo all their incredibly neat work that they did soldering all the cables onto the back panel, I just made some brackets that supported the back panel, sort of as is.
No, very good, very nice.
And then mounted their display in the front as well. So.
Yep. Okay. And there's a changeover relay, coax relay in the middle there.
That is the change, yeah. And I think that's sort of really better. There's obviously the heatsink and fan sort of at the bottom there.
Yep.
Interesting. There's some semi-rigid cable, the blue stuff that runs on the input side, which we did try to run on the output side, but it got hot.
Ooh, okay.
So it didn't like 300 watts. Apparently it should have been good 500, but so I ended up getting some RG142.
Yep. Okay.
And crimping that on, and that was all fine. So
there you go. Very nice, Richard. Absolutely immaculate. Love it.
Oh, and it works.
Yes, there you go. It's a bonus.
Always better. So again, this is some couple of new racks that I'm sort of trying to reorganise things. That's an old 6 metre linear, which hasn't been turned on for ages. I'm probably a bit scared to, because the capacitors have probably dried out.
That's a tube amp, is it?
That is a tube one, yeah, that I obtained from Brian VK7ZBX many years ago.
Okay.
So there's the check power supply.
Yep.
And room for expansion. UPS in the corner there.
Cool.
Okay, so
very good.
Moving. So a couple of radios here. The FT736, which is the old faithful.
Love it.
9100, which is now GPS locked, thanks to the VK4 guy whose name I can't think of. Is it Gibbs
AMG
presentation? In fact.
AMG.
AMG, exactly right.
Yes.
And it's working a treat. Couple of rotators,
cool.
And elevators, 70 centimetre amplifier speaker, a couple of SWR motors. There's the
I recognise that box.
I've seen a very similar thing on the front of the Amateur Radio magazine some months ago that had VK7ZBX written on the front. This is
I love it.
This is the ZBX version.
I love it. You need more buttons on it though. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll show you the other one I'm doing for the dish. But no, there's that. There's the other handy bit of kit, which the other light is the ZLPLL.
Very nice.
Device.
And having used that a few times, I love it. Good work. And we've got Richard. We've got Warren VK7 Whiskey November on the chat channel, and we've also got Paul Pruss VK7 FPCL. And
g'day to Paul and Warren.
He's loving this, and he said Richard is my inspiration. So there you go.
Wow. Not
putting the pressure on or anything, but hey.
Well, Paul's trying to get a bit back because we did sort of railroad him into being in the RD contest. But that's a story for another day.
There you go.
To which he did win, I do have to add.
He did. He was the foundation, well and truly.
Yeah. So that's the other rig is the 9700. There's a new bit of shelving sort of has been put in today, so I'm sort of just
very nice.
A little bit of work in progress.
Lovely.
And obviously, computer 2 screens.
Yep.
Weather station, more screens. That's the sort of the building area over there.
Okay.
Soldering iron and bits and pieces.
Cool.
And then just another area with bits and pieces sort of stored.
So it's a hexagonal shape that room, is it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's actually an octagon.
Oh, octagonal. Okay. 8-sided. Cool.
So and it was purpose sort of built. Like really sort of pretty nice.
And I do like the glass of wine there, Richard. Very nice. Yep.
It's a children's show. But that's about it. Oh, the only other thing is, I won't spin around too quickly because people will get seasick, is there's some sort of drawers with sort of bits and pieces
okay.
in them. So
can I just say, can you describe the view out of your windows? Because I think it's probably apart from maybe Rex's, it's probably one of the shacks in Hobart that has some of the best views in Hobart.
Look, I think it's one of those things. Views are very. Hang on, I might just put my ugly mug back on. Oh. Look, views are one of those things that you sort of get used to. I sort of often drop my chin when I go to Rex's and look out of his windows of the night and just go, wow, this is just so awesome. He goes, this is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty blasé about it.
Sort of get pretty used to it. And look, I think mine's a little bit the same. Look, I'm really happy. Like, I'm on a couple of acres, and so I have the luxury of being able to put antennas up.
Yep.
I've got really good mountain views, really good views to the north, not quite as good as Rex. There's a couple of hills that are a bit higher, but because they're a bit closer, they sort of impinge on the radio horizon.
Yep.
I have discovered though that it's very poor to New Zealand.
Yeah, you've got the hill behind you.
Yeah.
So,
and in fact, it's taken a few judicious placings of the dish to work guys off the moon.
Yep.
In the States, because you've got to sort of wait for it to sneak up.
Yep.
Past the hill. I think the hill's about 9 degrees high. So.
Yeah. Okay. So just from an antenna point of view, just give us a bit of a rundown of what you've got in the up in the air by the way of antennas.
Okay. So I had a satellite array which I bought probably in 1990.
Wow. Okay.
A Mass Pro WHS32 Oscar Hunter, as they were called, which is a 10 element by 10 element cross Yagi.
Yep.
With some interesting folded dipoles, which are very similar to the LFA Yagis.
Okay.
Whereas a normal folded dipole, the axis is sort of vertical. These are sort of actually horizontal. So, but they're quite broad band, quite a bit of gain, and then there's one for 70 centimetres, which is 20 by 20 elements, and it came with a fiberglass boom, and it was all sort of quite nice. It had relays to change polarity and stuff, which was super cool.
Okay.
sort of that's where one of the kidneys went. That's what it just
Right.
Okay. to buy it. But it worked really, really well, and it still does. Which is probably a testament to the way it was built.
Yep.
So that's the satellite array. That's on its own separate rotator and elevator.
Okay.
Then the sort of terrestrial system has a 5-element Yagi for 6 metres, a YU7EF design.
Yep. Okay.
Actually, I think it's a 6 element, so it's 6.5 metres long. Seems to work pretty well.
Okay.
It did after a little bit of help from Hayden, because I wasn't allowed to be near sharp things for a while because I was having lots of trouble tuning it and getting some things right, and Hayden very nicely sort of calmed me a little and pointed out a few things.
There was a period of time there, wasn't there, Richard, where there was the little bit of hair that you had.
Oh no, that's not. Wow.
Now,
how come everybody else's works doesn't?
Hayden's just let me know. Welcome to Daniel, who is CT2IUJ and DJ Raiders from Oklahoma in USA. So they're watching on the Ham Radio DX channel. So fantastic
stuff.
Good stuff.
So above that antenna is another YU7EF design. It's the 11-element Yagi for 2 metres.
Okay.
For 144.1.
Okay.
Actually, 144.3, I think, and it works really well. But boy, howdy, its bandwidth is very small. It's 1-to-1 at 144.3. By the time you get to 146, it's like 3-to-1, and then on I fired up on 147.5 the other night, and the radio went, no.
Yeah, no. Really narrow.
But it works really well. I've worked the boys in VK4, worked Scott VK4CZ on that. In fact, his QSL card's in the background. Hayden will get a giggle out of that. So it works pretty well. Worked a bit of tropo stuff with that, so it was really good. 70 centimetres, I've got a Yagi in the air, but it's still a bit of a work in progress.
Okay.
Have a 6 metre vertical, a dual band vertical. Then, of course, on 23 centimetres, I have a Yagi which has 70 elements.
How long is it, Richard?
Which is 6 metres long. For those who said, why would you build an antenna that long? I don't know. Why would you build an antenna that long?
Why do you climb a mountain? Yep.
But we proved a point that the previous antennas we made that were 3 metres long.
Yes.
Well, we originally made the VK7MO.
Yep.
1.5,
whatever it is.
1.5 metres long, and we thought if we built one twice as long, then maybe we should get an extra 3 dB again. And with quite a bit of testing, we did.
Yeah.
So I said to Rex, I could probably get another 3 dB going. Oh, he goes, that'd be 6 metres long. Yeah. So Rex goes, if you want to build it, I've got the 6 metre long bit of fiberglass. So I made up a jig for drilling. I think it's about 4 and a bit metres long, so we could drill them nice and accurately.
Yep.
And it was born, and it actually works really quite well.
There you go.
It's really quite sharp. I reckon it's 10 degrees wide. It's really quite sharp. But it works really well, matched nicely, and enables me to hear almost everybody in Hobart. It's on 23 centimetres. Yeah,
we have to admit when you went to that, your signal level did certainly come up, and you were being heard by people that you weren't being heard from before. So it's definitely an improvement. Definitely an improvement.
It worked really well.
Now I'll just point out CT2IUJ Daniel is actually in Portugal, so welcome Daniel. And VK5APN comments that the YU7EF Yagis absolutely loves them, exclusively use them here as well. So there, VK5APN. So there you go. Love it.
Look, they are good. They just gave us a few minor headaches in the early days. But, one lives and one learns.
Yeah, correct. Well and truly.
All about boom correction. Boom correction is your friend.
Correct. So that's and now there's some. I think you might have left out some dishes there.
Oh, of course. On 2.4 gigs, there's the obligatory grid.
Yep.
From Pacific Systems, the standard sort of 2.4 gig. In fact,
grid pack.
I know a local wireless ISP that used to use these 2.4 gig dishes.
Yeah.
And they don't use them anymore, but I do. And they're like, I think, a 26 dB gain,
yep.
sort of standard sort of grid. They're the barbecue plate style ones rather than the old Hills ones that had the white powder coated wire. These are the sort of flat, sort of cast aluminium style reflectors, which are a little bit more resilient to being shoved in the back of a car and stuff.
Okay.
3.4 gigs have a couple of antennas. One obviously is the panel antenna that came with the Geelong.
Yep.
Thing, which is just basically gutted with an end connector on the back. And Hayden and I we obtained a couple of 1.2 metre Andrews prime focus dishes.
Yep.
And we played around with a not sure if it's a soup can feed or a spaghetti can feed or what other sort of food.
It's a can feed.
And we had some pretty good results with that.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was a little bit finicky to sort of tune. And obviously we were still sort of doing some experimenting with that, but then we sort of got diverted onto other things, so that's still a bit of a work in progress. We did use it on one of the field days, but through no fault of anybody's, there was a bit of an oops and we didn't end up making any contacts up north. Then of course on 10 gigahertz, which is the system inspired by Rex. Originally I just had the an aperture horn, which was I think about 6 inches by 4 inches, which funnily enough I actually welded up for Rex when he was doing his initial experiments with
horn antennas. Yep.
Yeah, G3 Whiskey Delta Golf. He was actually listening to the beacon off the moon with these horns.
Yep.
Just incredible. So that got me on the air, and then we came by a 600mm MyTech dish, which it's one of those things, you go, oh, I might get myself on 10 gigs, and of course with Rex there's no half measures. It's like, well, if you're going to do it and you're going to do EME, you can't cut corners. You need to have this gear, you need to have a waveguide switch. No worries. Tricky busily taking notes of all the stuff I'd need, go home and Google it, like, holy crap. That's expensive.
Now you can see why I stick with coax.
But look, again, us hams are sort of pretty stingy by nature, and look, you just got to keep your eye out and stuff comes up.
Correct.
I bought mine, which was really fortunate. It was a 12 volt WR75 waveguide switch.
Yep.
That was actually I bought off a guy in Australia, and I think it was $300 Australian.
Yeah, okay.
And everywhere else I looked on the net, they were like over 1,000.
Yep.
US. So I was really lucky there. Bought Kuhn preamp and Kuhn transverter, and yeah, look, still astonished at how well it works across town. Such small power, like 250 milliwatts out of the transverter, was able to work. Rex, who's nowhere near line of sight, and yourself.
Yep. It's spot on.
And in fact, I think I ended up with a 3-watt PA, courtesy of Rex on loan, and that was able to work from Mount Wellington to Launceston.
Yep.
Which was really good.
Just fantastic. No, it's remarkable.
And of course, the beacon, like hearing the beacon off the moon, like we had that bit of a shootout that day at the club.
That's right.
Wow, it's pretty awesome.
No, that's inspirational stuff. That's and given the beacon's back on, and I've got that 600mm dish that I want to do the comparison between the 1.2 and the 600. So
I've obviously got an alignment issue with my rifle scope and the and the antenna.
Oh,
well, I did discover that at 2 a.m. the other morning.
I love it.
That was good. It was excellent. Pretty good.
That's fantastic, Richard. Any last comments, I suppose, would you like to put in?
No, look, only the fact that sort of like there's lots of people. Like, obviously, thanks to Rex for sort of for lighting the fire with this sort of microwave stuff. I think not only has he sort of got me really interested, but I think other people like yourself, Justin, and Hayden and Murray and a few other guys in the club that sort of had a bit of an inkling for microwaves. It's sort of we've sort of come out of the closet, as it were.
Yep, definitely.
There's now sort of lots going on, and I just think it's good. Again, the 23 centimetre net that sort of Rex sort of basically started has now reached almost epidemic proportions, pandemic proportions.
Well, it's certainly increased since the pandemic.
That's right. Exactly right. I think I did a spreadsheet the other night, and I think we worked out there's about 28 people in Tasmania that have the ability to be on 23 centimetres.
Yep.
And I think last week we had a bit of a record. I think there was 14 called into the net.
Yep.
Which is really good. And probably the furthest guy away was one of the newest guys, Gary VK7ZBX,
yep. Snug.
Who's down at Snug, yeah.
Yes.
And he was sort of 5x2, 5x3 to me in Tea Tree, which is like 40 odd Ks, which is pretty good.
Just fantastic.
And I can only speak very highly that preamps are the go. One definitely needs preamp.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, well and truly. And Martin 7GN was on.
That's right, he was.
So he's a new one. So yeah. With a new, I think he said a new 9700. So
9700. Yeah, look, it's done a lot for the community. Like, there's obviously some issues with it. In some applications, but look, for most of the time, it's sort of not too bad.
Well, there are solutions to those issues. So
there are solutions. We're waiting on hopefully one at the moment, which seems to be a really good option. So we'll sort of see how that pans out.
It's good. So that's fantastic.
No, look, it's been good.
Excellent. So I'll just put out a call for any final questions for Richard, either via R2, by all means call in on repeater 2, or via the chat channel. Just and stay on the line. Stay on the line, Richard. Yes, lubricate the vocal cords. Very good. One of the things I came across was there's lots of, you would have seen. I think somebody might be calling in on R2. Just stand by. This is VK7OTC. Just listening on repeater 2 for any questions for our DATV night. Over.
Victor Hotel.
And Vince, VK7 Victor Hotel, VK7 OTC, go ahead.
VK7 OTC, VK7 Victor Hotel, what a cracking show, and pass on my thanks to my cousin, Richard, and what a cracking show, absolutely bloody brilliant. Over.
Go for it, Richard.
Tell him I'll pay him later for that comment. Checks in the mail.
VK7VH, VK7 OTC, no problems. It was passed on to Richard, and certainly heard it, Vince. No problems at all. Any further call-ins tonight on repeater 2? Go ahead.
RF on 445.5. Thanks again.
Cheers, no problems at all. And Vince, just reminding us that there is RF of this particular show that goes out on 445.5 megahertz standard definition, DVB-T. So if you can see the Queen's Domain, you've got half a chance of seeing it. And also, we did have Steve, VK700, last week, send us a picture of a picture of the show on his 65-inch LED television out at the other side of Glenorchy. So he must have a little bit of elevation and be able to get the signal from the Queen's Domain. So there you go. This is VK7OTC.
VK7OTC, VK7RO. A couple of corrections there, Justin. It's an OLED telly, and I'm in Newtown, and I'm receiving the UHF only signal on a VHF only antenna.
Well, there you go. No, well, you're a bit closer then, Steve, so no problems. An OLED television and VHF for a UHF reception, so the signal strength must be pretty reasonable to overcome the frequency difference.
Yeah, fine there, Justin, and fine quality of video there from Richard. I'm jealous of the shack. It's somewhat larger and more spacious than mine.
You want to comment to him, Richard?
Look, I'm really happy with it. I'm very fortunate, Steve, that when I built the house, the Radio Shack was sort of from the very start going to be that spot. So I was just really lucky. So yes, very good. I'm very happy.
Yeah, fine there, Richard. Understand, because similar arrangement here with building the shack into the house, only we compromised a little. I ended up with the smallest room in the house.
That's the toilet.
Thanks, Steve. VK700 and the group VK7OTC. So that's excellent. All right. One of the key amateur radio self-isolation calendars, I think we can call this, is of course the amateur radio contest calendar. Just looking at the contests in 2020, and in
field days are not looking very flash though.
Correct. And in fact, we're in a bit of a quiet time right at the moment, because the last weekend in March was the CQWPX contest. The end of May is the the CQ Worldwide CQWW contest, which is the worldwide contest. There's 36 hours of operation there. CQ Worldwide DX contest, and then April the 18th, so this is coming up, is World Amateur Radio Day. And then May the 2nd is the Harry Angel Memorial Sprint on 80 metres, and June the 6th and 7th is the Museum Ships weekend, and June the 6th and 7th is also the VK Shires contest. So there you go. So there's there's a few contests going on, as well as internationally. I can't believe there is a wonderful site if you're into contests, which is supplied by WA7BNM, and it's the contest calendar, and it literally, this guy has gone to so much trouble to pick up, and there is basically you can go down to daily contests, day for day to actually show the contest. But it is mainly focused on the US, but I'm amazed at how many amateur radio contests there are in the US, literally almost every day. So there's always a chance there. Now I thought I'd finish off with for the scientists around. You've probably seen the and in fact, the events page on Facebook that I put up, I included one of these. They're not really memes, but these little things that say social distancing at 2 meters. At 146 megahertz, you have to be 2 meters apart, and all of that sort of stuff. And I came across a one for the physicists among us. which is to make sure that you stay 6.67 by 10 to the minus 9 light seconds apart. And you can probably you would have the instrumentation to be able to measure that as well. But anyway, and I'll leave the new Q code until next week. But just to finish off, now the Reast committee met last night and talked about an idea that we would like to try next Wednesday night, which is we're actually sending out an email to all Reast members to give them a Zoom address that they can go to, and what we're going to try and do is a whole of club gathering, Zoom gathering, to have a bit of I suppose a bit of social contact from a club perspective, because we realise that the Wednesday afternoon group obviously can't meet because of the requirements of there not being gatherings and the government requirements, and also the Wednesday night group we're sort of gathering, and we've got I notice here Richard Warren's asking whether it's Merlot or Cab Sav.
It's actually a Cab Sav.
That's a Cab Sav. Oh, there you go, Warren. It's a Cab Sav. And he also said, "Great show, thanks, guys." So for our Reast members, we're actually going to be sending out an email to you with a Zoom address that you can go to, and we'll get see how we can get everybody on to Zoom and have a bit of a social gathering for the club, and we'll see how that goes. And a bit of a call out to anybody else who would like to do exactly what Richard did, and thank you hugely, Richard, for being our first shack tour and project tour on the DATV night and the working from the shack nights. So thank you very much.
And to help out.
And if you're interested in doing a similar thing in your shack, then please let us know. And even it doesn't, don't let the humongous shack arrangement that Richard has put you off, and say, I've only got a couple of radios on the table and all of this sort of stuff. Fantastic. There are different shacks, different ways of doing it, different ideas, and that's a little bit about what this is all about, is trying to get those ideas out there and get people thinking about what they can do. So if you're interested, shoot me an email, vk7tw@waa.org.au, and can I just say, it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody in Tasmania. It can be somebody on the mainland, it can be someone overseas if you want to get up early in the morning or late at night or whatever. It can be anybody just giving us a little bit of a shack tour of their shack. So, and the projects that they're doing at the time. So yeah, that's the calls out there. So thank you very much, Richard. We've got we'll go off the stream in a short moment, and for our RF viewers, we've got some videos from the interweb. There's a couple here, an FT4TA Ham DX Expedition back in 2014, which is a nice little short video on their activation. We've got one from K6UDA. Now, if you know these, he produces some quite hilarious videos. And he's got another one on preppers for ham radio operators and beginners. So how to prep your shack and ham radio bag. Another one on ham radio and coronavirus, and then we might have time to get into Amateur Logic episode 140. We might not quite get through that, but anyway, we'll see how we go. But that's for our RF viewers. So anyway, we'll head off right at the moment. Richard, stay on the line, and we'll head off, and we look forward to how our club gathering goes next week. This is VK7 OTC and VK7ZBX signing off, and 73, and we'll catch you next time.